In the reader, one scene that stood out to me was when Michael and Hannah were talking in the cafe. They were having a conversation about Hannah's past, and the way in which Hannah's eyes looked during the conversation shows the severity and the impact that time had on her, and still does to this day. Because she grew up during the war. The way she speaks in the dialogue shows the fear of revisiting that tragic moment in her life. And you can see that through her body language as well. She's trembling throughout the whole conversation, and really hammers the idea of just how bad of a time this was in our nation and world's history. And so in this conversation, she's talking to Michael, who was born after the war. So he wasn't alive to directly experience this tragedy. But in the conversation, he seems curious to educate himself on her experience. His eyes are filled with empathy, and he is trying to comfort her as much as he can. But at the same time, he wasn't alive to experience that. He's the next generation. So there comes a point where it's hard to relate to someone when you weren't there to directly experience it and you don't know what's going on in their mind. Because something that tragic is not something you're going to get over in a matter of like days or weeks. It's going to take a while. So Hannah, in the conversation, you could tell that she's a little frustrated because of this lack of relation, and that Michael cannot really relate to her in this kind of conversation. And overall, it just shows the older generation's reluctancy to talk about the war and the trauma surrounding it because of the lack of relation. You don't really see many people nowadays really talking about it because of the fact that they don't have anyone to relate to, and that's an issue. And really, all you can really do for a younger generation like me is educate yourself on the topic. I feel like a lot of people in our day and age don't really know about many things in our history that I feel like people should know. And I feel like through this, it's easier to comfort these people and make them feel like they're not alone in experiencing this kind of situation. Because in order to relate with someone, you got to be able to talk about the situation, and that's really the best way to comfort someone.